Welcome to Web3 and Me, presented by FLOLiO. I'm your host, Jeremy Weber. On today's show, I will be joined by the creator of the Huxley Saga, Ben Mauro, and community manager, Kas Vegas. We're going to dive deep into the world of Huxley, your favorite robot. Before we get into that, please go ahead and like the stream, subscribe to our channel. That is greatly appreciated. And most importantly, head over to FLOLiO.com. That is FLOLiO to check out all the NFT tools that we have for collectors. See your account valuation, use our free browser extension to do some shopping on the marketplaces. So with all that said, I'm going to bring on Ben and Kas to the stream today. As a quick introduction for those who don't know, Ben is a senior concept designer. He has a pretty outstanding resume that includes Elysium, Chappie, the Hobbit trilogy, Halo Infinite, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, and many others that I'm not even going to name off the rest of. So, Kas, Ben, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So let's get in from the very beginning. Ben, how did you go from concept design for all of those projects to getting into NFTs? What was like your first introduction to NFTs?
I think towards the end of 2020, is it now, when people was kind of getting into things and posting about it. I think it was very early. It was just like, I heard about this NFT thing. I don't really know. Like, people are talking to me about this. And some other friends from just like the Web2 days, Victor Mascara, I saw was getting into like super rare and selling his paintings. And he kind of helped talk me through it and helped show me how to like apply to super rare and stuff. And that was my first like, what is this? Like, what is going on here? What is this? And I tried selling a few early images on super rare and kind of dipping my feet in the water just to see what this whole thing was. And kind of once it kind of got going, it was just like, I was at that time I was finishing Huxley as well. So it was like, I had this big product I was spending like 10 years on, and I was going to go the traditional route. Like, okay, I'll go to publishers and work my way up the old ladder and try to make a movie and a game and all this stuff the traditional way. But once I kind of started doing all this, it just felt like there's something here. This seemed like the most interesting way to do something in 2021, and it kind of all overlapped in such a beautiful way with this product that I had been working on most of my kind of career, and I just kind of went for it.
Okay, awesome. And then Kas, we talked briefly before the show, but how did you get involved with Ben and the Huxley project? And, what was one of the things that really drove you to wanting to be involved with it?
I think, like a lot of people, curiosity is kind of the gateway into it, whether you hear through a friend or through someone kind of teaching about it or online. And the more you kind of dip your toe in the water, the more you just want to go down the rabbit hole. And so previously, before working with Ben, I was onboarding, teaching, as well as learning, because the space is always evolving. And through that, I met Steven, who is our CEO and co-founder of Feature. And he introduced us to Ben and was really excited about this. He would always call it big world building. He didn't say this was just going to be a one-off 10K project. He said this is going to be massive. And so together, we started building and talking to Ben, and it was really fun. I'm really honored to be working with Ben. And again, we're always learning simultaneously and using that curiosity to just kind of rocket into this space.
Okay. Ben, I'm curious, with all the connections that you have, outside of the Web3 NFT space, what do a lot of the people that outside of this world think about it, and, how you're trying to bring Huxley and develop it in, as an NFT?
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. Like, it's kind of like a mixed reaction. Like, some people get it and totally understand, and then other people kind of had some early hot takes when NFTs started to blow up and are like, have just made up their mind without really reading anything. So there's kind of like a mix of both, I feel.
Yeah. Okay. What are your thoughts on the current state of the NFT market, and, how teams and projects are currently building within it, and how you want to differentiate from that?
Well, I think as we head into kind of like maybe more of like a bear market, teams that are actually building something will be fine. And the ones that were just trying to do a quick like thing and didn't really there was no foundation on what they were building aren't going to do so great. But, you know, I've already spent 10 years on this and it's got a lot of legs, and I'm already into the next 10 years now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to do. Yeah.
Perfect. Kas, you know, same question for you. Like, how do you feel you're trying to build this Huxley community? Because it seems like, you know, we talked before, it's not very small knit, but like it's fairly small knit, and the people who are in it like love it. Like they're very diehard. They see Ben's vision. They see what you all are trying to create. So, you know, how are you going to continue to build this community around Huxley?
Well, I think first, like, I want to give a lot of credit to the team we've built within our team that built then the community, because like it's pretty difficult to do multiple drops with the same kind of aesthetic. I think that's one thing we have kind of like challenged, but also edged out of other teams, is having 10K, but of each comic, and still having a consistent community to build and slowly add more people and add more people. So it's kind of a long-term game and play for us, because as Ben mentioned, he's already thinking of the next 10 years. He's already put in 10 years. And so we kind of just gather people along the way that are part of that kind of mentality of being a part of something that will continue on besides just one drop. And so I think, again, I just want to give a lot of credit to the team that we've built, because it is difficult to do that. And I think we're doing it in our own organic way and just kind of catching new audiences as we go, which is also really exciting, as well as just having the returning community, which is also just as exciting and supportive.
That's awesome. So let's get into it then. Ben, you said you've been building for 10 years. You've been creating Huxley. What were the origins of that? Like, what was the original, motivation for creating Huxley, and where did that idea come from?
Well, I think a lot of it was just like frustrations of working in web. I mean, we didn't call it Web 2, but like, just working in the industry I was working in, right? Like, you're in the film industry, you're so excited to go work on these movies that you've loved watching your whole life, and you get in there and the reality is just like, you're a tool to do things as cheaply as possible for someone else, and you get nothing. And they go make their big thing, and that's fine. It's a great learning experience, but you just see like, here's how something gets made, and you go through that a few times, and it's like, well, the only way out of this kind of system that I'm in is to try to invest in myself and create my own thing. And so the kind of seed was planted of just like, I need to start building something for myself, and it's probably going to take a very long time, because all these things I'm working on have taken a very long time. Even to get to the point where I'm working on it is probably, Tolkien's estate is now making the Hobbit movies, and I'm working on it. And that was like, 50 years of that one writer's life, now his kid's life, to create and shepherd this story and franchise into the future. And I am now working on this piece of it so many years ahead, and just kind of seeing how long term all these things take to build and create something, and just thinking about that for myself. And it took like 10 years just to get here, and it's going to be a lot more years to keep doing this. But I don't know, you just see like, not that this is the only way out, but like, I need to invest in myself and always think about how to create something on my own, and just dedicating a lot of time, even though it's not easy, because you have to say no to a lot of your friends who are making cool stuff. And it was a lot of years of turning down amazing jobs with amazing directors on amazing franchises that I love, because I wanted to invest in myself and my own things.
Yeah, it feels like on the creator side, just the best way to truly get to follow through with exactly what your vision is, because this Huxley vision is very grand from what I've experienced reading through the comics and seeing everything. So, to someone, and this could be a question for either one of you, to someone who is brand new to NFTs, brand new to Huxley, how would you explain it to them, and how would you tell them to really get started understanding the world that you're creating? Kas, if you want to start with that one.
Sure. I think if you're a lover of lore and stories, comics, or if you even want to hop into something new, something a little bit different from the typical NFT projects, or the typical maybe PFP, or 2D cartoon-like animation, I think it's a great entryway into that whole Huxley world. And so I kind of just want to pique your curiosity with it and read up on the stories. And the cool thing about what we did with these NFTs, we're on issue 4 out of 6 currently. And you can check it out at huxleysaga.com. But even if you mint issue 4, you can download and read the previous issue 3, issue 2, and issue 1. So it's not like a debilitating financial entry where you have to buy all the other pieces. You can actually start where we currently are minting and work your way backwards and just read up on the storyline.
I think that's also one of the cool things as well, is like I said, I did all this before we launched. So the comic's all done like from the start, and you don't have to wait like a year for me to finish part 6 or part 5. And I'm just excited for everyone to read this entire story that I've spent all this time creating.
Awesome. So, if we look at the collection as a whole, we have the comics, chapters 1 through 4 are done. Chapter 4 is still minting over at the Huxley website. Mm-hmm. You can go grab one of those. We have, the robot PFPs, and there's eventually going to be the human PFPs. How does that all play into everything? I know you can buy there's a 1K supply of the robot. You can buy those on secondary. And, I was looking through it, and you have to get a Genesis token, and there's some burn mechanics there. So what value does having a robot PFP provide? Is it going to be similar for the human ones? Can you get, a little bit deeper into all that?
Sure. Yeah. The robots are kind of like the Genesis avatars, I guess. And, holding a robot gets you human. So that's a nice perk. And yeah, they're involved in just all the different drops and things. And for the remaining 2,000, there's going to be 3,000 humans. So 1,000 is dedicated to robot holders as a nice perk for them. And then the remaining 2,000 are using the Genesis tokens to kind of redeem once they're alive. And we're getting pretty close. They're looking really cool, the humans.
Awesome. So we saw that there was the first look for the game dropped in May. And also looked like there was a playable demo that was part of your NFT NYC event. How long have you been working on the game, and what was the initial response that you got from people at NFT NYC around that demo?
That was awesome. It was super positive. I think my experience working is I always like to be quiet and just make something great, and then I share it and not try to hype things every 5 seconds. So I just want to make something really cool, and then it was nice to see people play and be like, "Oh my god, this is so much better than I even imagined." So that was really cool. It's probably taken a few months to work on that since the beginning of the year, but a lot of the pieces, it's all compounding on itself in a way. So it's a little hard to say oh, this only took this long, because the main character model is from the movie, which took a very that took a year to make that short full CG trailer. But then we have all these assets now that are incredibly photoreal. And it was just a month to adapt that into a great Unreal 5 asset. But had we done that just as an asset, that would have taken much longer just to make that one thing. Same for all the weapons and stuff. And originally we were making a single player kind of playable, but decided to kind of, our team was affected by the events in Ukraine. So we just had to adapt with the times. And this kind of multiplayer experience is a great way to showcase fidelity, gameplay, and just really fun. So it's been a really fun experience working on that side of things.
Very cool. You have your experience with Call of Duty and Halo. What were some of the things that you took from working on those projects that you really wanted to include in the Huxley game? And were there certain things you're like, no, I don't want to bring that into what I'm trying to build here?
I think a lot of it is more along the lines of just how to be efficient with time and budget. Just seeing how big things can get and how much waste there can sometimes be, and just how I've seen many different teams over many years do things in different ways that worked out great or didn't work out so great. And so just trying to take all the lessons I've learned to do things in a very efficient way, so that nothing's wasted.
What have been some of the bigger challenges since you started working on the game? Because we hear, there was a point in time where every NFT project was going to have a game, right? And very few of those are actually following through on it, but you guys are. Mm-hmm. So what were some of the challenges right off the bat that you guys ran into? And this could be answered by either one of you.
I think just finding qualified people that are available, because there's definitely like a content shortage, right, and just a team shortage. Like I would joke that like there aren't enough game developers in the entire galaxy to make all the NFT games that people were claiming were going to exist. Right? It's just not. There's just not that many people in the world to like do this. Some good people that can do what we need and like do it right. And I think just finding great people and assembling a good team.
I think to add
Kas,
on
was this
to
your?
that,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say to add on to that, I think also just getting through that curtain that, like you said, everyone was doing a game at one point, but this is something of high quality, high standard that Ben always puts out. And so just differentiating, this is not going to be like your average, maybe a play to earn kind of game. It's actually like a AAA level game. So just being transparent and letting people kind of check it out and see it for themselves. So I think that's why NFT NYC was a really cool surprise for people to see what that game in the pre-alpha looked like. And like Ben said, the feedback was like really surprisingly positive and fun. And so just, again, differentiating this team from most teams that kind of put on a roadmap that never happens. So I think, intelligently thinking through steps and revealing things when we're revealing things is really important to us as a team, and putting out quality. And so that's already a challenge, right? Is just kind of showing that we are different and here to stay. But I think once people do dive in, they do feel that difference of the community and how people react and stick around and kind of build those bonds with one another.
And I think just being realistic as much as possible with everything, which I have been. Whereas a lot of things that have come out like, we're gonna have a AAA game in 2 months. It's just like, really, what games have you worked on? And it's just like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just give us, just buy all this stuff, and we'll definitely have a AAA game in 2. It's like, okay.
This definitely isn't a pyramid scheme. We're totally doing this.
So it's like when I do stuff, I'm just like, these are things I want to do and I'm working on, but I can't really, I need time to figure out and experiment and explore, because there's a lot of time that it takes to even find what kind of game you're going to make, how fun it's going to be. Like maybe something comes up and it's just like, I did not expect that, but that is way more fun than what I had planned. Let's explore what this is going to be. But just saying like, we're going to do this and it's going to be done in 2 months. And it's like, okay, what is your team? What's your experience? Like, these things take a very long time, and just being as realistic as possible at all times, I think, is super important.
Absolutely. So one area that people have been talking about is trying to get more, gamers into NFTs. And the play to earn meta, I think, is starting to go by the wayside, because people realize that like, if a game sucks, it doesn't matter if you can make $20 a day. No one's going to really care that much. So have you, been really kind of like strategizing, like, okay, I know I have my experience in gaming. How can we best bring people from the gaming world into the world of NFTs, which it seems like a lot of gamers really hate NFTs. I don't totally understand why that's the case, but is that something that you guys, are consciously trying to do, is pull people, be like, hey, just because it's an NFT doesn't mean it's bad. Like, this is what we're building. Like, have you put much thought into that?
Well, right now the plan is just to make a really great game. So like with the comic, like my goal was to make a really amazing comic. And once it was done, I figured out the best way to launch it. And at the time that was with NFTs. So the plan right now is to make a really great game. And once it is in a place, I'll determine like, what is the best way to do this? Because like you said, like, had I gone and say, it's going to be a play to earn, which is now proven to be not a good model. And now I'm stuck with something that doesn't work. And so the goal should always be making a great thing that millions of people want to play from the get-go, and find the best way to do that once it's in a good place.
Yeah.
So as I'm reading, as I was reading through the comics these last couple of days, you said it's going to be mainly a multiplayer game. Is there going to be much of the story, and how's the story from the comics going to be incorporated into the game, or is it mainly just going to be like the characters that were in the game are playable, or in the comic are playable in the game?
Well, not necessarily. This is all super early, right? So like, this is just getting down gameplay, getting down kind of fidelity, and right now it's in a multiplayer experience, but there's some different ideas for single player aspects to it that I want to explore, and whether that's different experiences or maybe that's part of one bigger experience. I'll see what just makes the most sense. Yeah, it's just finding what feels the best for which stage of things, and if that makes a couple smaller, like with Star Wars, right? There's like 1,000 Star Wars games that are all completely different, but doesn't make sense to have these be different experiences or one bigger experience. Yeah.
Okay. Cass, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I agree with Ben about just making a good game and kind of being aware. You talked about gamers sometimes being a little anti-NFT. I think you can only talk about things so much as you need to kind of experience it. And so if you focus on having a good product and having the right people experience it, that kind of word of mouth travels more than, hop into this game, try this game. I know it's attached to an NFT. It's more so like, again, that curiosity and not so much like pushing someone into something. So I like to say, keep the door open for someone, but don't push them through. Just open it for them and then let them kind of walk through. And building, I can't say that enough, like a good product will determine how the gamers come in and just see for themselves and experience for themselves.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the game. I watched the movie trailer as well. It dropped back in March. I think it has close to like 3 million views on YouTube already. Ton of great comments. People love it. What has that experience been like? And do you have, a timeline you're willing to share a little bit? I know you said you don't like to talk too much until things are ready. What are kind of the steps that are in that process right now, and where you see that headed?
Well, our producers are doing the thing in Hollywood, so I'll let them just do the thing. And when there's things we can say, we can talk about it. But I can't say anything about that. But on the trailer getting out, it was really awesome just to see, because again, the goal was just to make a great IP and a great thing, and it was just all people who love sci-fi movies and games are all just sharing this and loving it, and all the comments are just from people who love great original sci-fi. And so it was really validating to just have like people liking it for what it is and what I tried to create. And yeah, it was really awesome. But as far as like next steps that I'm more engaged in, been working on prequel stories, and the next trailer, production design for the next trailer is done, and we'll be locking in the VFX studio pretty soon to begin executing that. It's looking pretty awesome.
Yeah, that first trailer is really badass. That was that's one of those things like, okay, these guys are creating something that most other teams are not capable of in this space. Cass, coming from what you've done before, how has this experience working with Huxley, how have you taken what you've done in the past and incorporated, and what are some of the biggest things you've learned, working with Ben and the whole team?
I think what I've taken from learning before is the consistency, but having all of that energy go into one project versus just having one project, be consistent in one aspect, but actually just continuously building that consistency and slowly involving new eyes to Ben's project. I think that's like been a blessing and a cool challenge for me. I think I love the fact that this has so many different verticals to it. You have the video game, you have the film, you have the comics itself. We have some merch, we have some metaverse things coming out. So I think I have to use all my brain cells and skill sets to kind of stay involved and up to date and bring that back to the community as well. So again, it's been like I like challenges in a positive way. And I think this challenges all of us. It challenges the space. It elevates the space. It challenges Ben himself. He's always like rising to the occasion. So it's just been great for me.
Excellent. You mentioned the metaverse side of things. Can you share anything there as far as like what you're building for the metaverse? That's the hot thing. We have the other side first. Playable part launches tomorrow, and everyone's talking about their metaverse, and CloneX just did their 3D models. Like, what does Huxley have in store for the metaverse?
I think we do have some early partnerships, some things we were talking about with Wilder World, but we're also pretty metaverse agnostic because, again, everything kind of changes. And I'm really glad that our team is always evolving with the times and not being boxed in to one type of metaverse or one piece of land in a type of metaverse. So just kind of keeping a bit open mind on our metaverse side of things.
Okay. Ben, you said that you're already working on the next 10 years of Huxley. What are some of the things that, without getting into specifics, obviously, you really want to see play out over these next 10 years of building this IP?
Probably the things that we're already engaged in, like films, gaming,
Okay.
Traditional novels, new graphic novel stories, prequels. That's a whole lot of years right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like again, like, yeah, we're gonna do all this in 2 months, and then it's like that's pretty full year slate, many years of work to do there.
What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced coming into NFTs from the Web 2 world, if you will?
I think it was just, it's not like you can't sell a Web 2 product in a Web 2 way. You have to add all these different aspects to it, kind of gamify it, tokenomics, things like this, to almost turn it into like a collecting game, as opposed to just like, I went to the comic shop and I got a comic and that's it. Like, there has to be more layers to it for it to work, I think. Or at least that was my experience. I'm sure, everyone is figuring out new things all the time. And so it's just been interesting to see, like, it's kind of evolving every week and every day. And so just doing the best we can to make the most interesting experience. But I definitely think adding all those layers and figuring out that it's not a direct kind of Web 2 product to sale, like in this new industry. Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. Like, there's definitely that feeling of ownership that people have is definitely, a much bigger step up compared to Web 2. Like, when they own your NFT, they feel like they're not part of the team per se, but they're definitely part of the community. And I think that goes a long way in building brand loyalty. What are some of, are there any like little things or parts of the comic? I want to talk about a little bit more about the comic itself,
Sure.
that you really, that people don't talk about enough, that you don't think people pay enough attention to. Like, there's so many details. I think the dialogue is, it's an adventure, but it's kind of goofy and silly at times as well. Like, what are some of the things that you had the most fun with creating the comic?
I think a lot of it was just, it took so long. Like, that was, it seems so easy on the outside, but once you start making a graphic novel, you see how much work it is. But for me, the fun part was just like being able to design everything myself, like as a single creator. And that was another reason I wanted to do a graphic novel, was just, it's still one of the few ways a single creator can create an entire product. A lot of people were like, why don't you just make a movie from the start? It's like, well, a movie, you need 30 to sometimes thousands of people to make something. And so for me, just being able to craft an entire story and be the writer, director, cinematographer, production designer, character designer was probably the most gratifying thing. But it was interesting because I think very visually. So a lot of the comic was made, it's almost like I had a storyboard or a color script in my head and I was drawing it and visualizing it this way. And I had the plot points and the dialogue pretty fleshed out, but once you finish everything and you read through it, you're like, oh, well, that doesn't really make sense. And you kind of have to like go through as a reader and almost like turn your brain off, not looking at the art, and make sure it reads very well to just like an average reader who may be. The unfortunate reality is when you read a comic, you kind of stop looking at the art after a few pages. So it's like, I know I spent all this time on this beautiful art, but like, I need to like make sure everyone who's just reading it are still getting an enjoyable experience as well, on top of very, very beautiful art.
Kas, being part of, being deep in the community, what are some of your favorite parts of the comics? And then what is some of the, the community feedback and just the overall vibe of the community? I think that's one thing that's really interesting, is there's very distinct community, sentiments from communities and the vibe that they put off. What would you say, you like most about the comics and just the overall feeling of the Huxley community?
I really like the different title pages, like just the comics itself, and kind of seeing how they all unveil and hearing people's favorites. Like, a lot of people was leaning towards issue 3, like the purple kind of popped a lot. It was also a moment we announced our film, and so it just sold out like within that day. So it's more so like being on the inside, hearing it like a little bit sooner than everyone else, and then seeing everyone's real-time reaction to all the different layers that we unveil. So I think that's my favorite part of the community, is the surprises and just seeing their feedback, and also outside of our community, other communities just kind of coming in and saying, whoa, this is a whole world over here. So I would say, to describe our community, they're very tight knit but open at the same time. Like they're always kind of self-promoting Huxley and how proud they are of Huxley, which a lot of teams do. But it's a really good community for sure, because again, this is a NFT project in which you have to come back and come back and come back, and there's multiple issues. So just seeing that like solidarity of we're coming back for the next issue has been a very tight knit kind of thing for us.
Yeah, one thing that I really like that you guys have going for you is like that it's not a community that was built around the floor price, right? Like it's really easy to get excited about being a part of a community when the floor price is going up on assets at all times, but that's not what you guys are going for. And I think that's really awesome. I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to, I want to make sure we get everything out there. So are there any final points about what you've done so far and what you have coming in the future that you'd like to share with us today, Ben? Same for you, Kas.
I think just really appreciate everyone being involved in this, and this whole experience going into Web3 has been kind of beyond my wildest expectations. But I always tell people, like, I expected to be here like maybe 10 years down the line had I done things traditionally. So it's just kind of accelerated all these cool things I want to do, and I'm not taking that lightly, and really trying to take advantage and create something really special that I was planning to do this whole time, regardless. So I just really thank everyone who's been involved, and really appreciate all the support from the community and everyone else.
Kas, any final points you want to put out there, and any messages to the community?
Yeah, just to also say thank you to everyone that's supporting, and thank you to everyone that's curious enough to kind of hop into and trust us on this roller coaster ride. And just that I hope everyone continues to enjoy it and check it out in their free time. I know there's so many things going on in the space, but at least we'll be around for a very long time. So it gives you no pressure and plenty of time to check out Huxley.
Awesome. Ben and Kas, thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed that conversation. Everyone, if you're watching, thank you so much for being here. Please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. We put out NFT content 3 to 4 times a week. Love talking about all this stuff. So for Ben and Kas, for the team at FLOLiO, I am Jeremy. Thank you for joining us, everybody, and we will see you next time.